Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Lighthouse Labs. I'm excited to show, well, not just one product, but actually a brand new partner that we have here at Lighthouse and a couple of the products that they offer. Alta Labs is a newcomer to the industry. Been here about 2 years or so, but don't let that get you too scared, because a lot of their engineering comes from big giants, from companies such as Ubiquiti. What's unique about the Alta line is that they support and they go for the cloud-first mentality. Why do we love that here at Lighthouse? Well, the biggest reason is when we're supporting you, our clients, it's so much faster for us to be able to resolve issues, investigate problems, when we don't need to necessarily worry too much about logging in or remoting. We can get straight to it. The other thing is most of the cloud managed products offer a lot of templating and save states, which just allow us to set up networks even faster. The difference in the Alta model is that unlike most of the cloud products that we offer, which you may recognize by the Meraki's and the Aristas, Untangles, where there is an annual contract, everything that we show you here from Alta has no yearly maintenance costs to it. That's right, cloud maintenance, cloud managed, all the features you need, all the time, no subscription. And that makes it a very tempting platform to mess around with. So we actually introduced them to our product catalog several months ago at the beginning of 2024, but 2025. Right at the tail end of 2024, we actually did some significant testing and kind of fell in love with these things. I want to take a look at 3 products from Alta and share them with you, because the next time you get to see them, maybe you'll get excited too. As I mentioned, we've got 3 products to look at from Alta Labs. The first one that we're going to take a look at is the network switch. This is an 8-port PoE switch that we have on demo. However, they do make other models, such as a 16 and a 24 port. We're going to take a look at their Route 10 firewall. And then I'm going to save the best for last, because that's going to be our AP6 Pro access point. Let's dive right in, take a look. Nothing terribly fancy, but one of the things that I love about these Altas is, one, this top is actually an LED, which gives you a very good status as to what the device is doing and what's happening. Maybe it's way overdue on an upgrade. That's right. Because you're free, you need to make sure you're doing the updates on these. They're constantly innovating and constantly updating because they're new. And so if you've gone more than a couple weeks without updating, the device will flash and say, hey, you should probably make sure that you do that. The other thing that that does is just shows you that it's online. Now, as for this PoE 8-port switch, you'll notice we have 8 gigabit ports, with only 4 of them being PoE. We'll come back to it, but that's actually kind of one of my biggest gripes with the Alta line as it stands right now. However, these are PoE Plus ports, so you can power all of the new devices, even if they're multi-gig, what have you. In terms of functionality, it's a little hard to see on a little box like this, but the S8 PoE does support all your VLANs. It supports some basic layer 7 functionality, QoS, mentioned the PoE, and honestly, I really like the build quality on this device. Actually, all of their devices. It's real nice rubber on the bottom. The mounting bracket, which can be frustrating at times if you have an uneven wall, these pads can kind of get in the way. And this Alta logo, actually is how they lock into place. Kind of a funny, cool way to use their own logo that snaps it all into position. In terms of build quality, I like it. It's very sturdy, doesn't get terribly warm, just works. Really do like it. It's been a really neat little addition. Now, I mentioned that this is only half PoE, and that is kind of the problem that I'm having with the Alta switch line. So this has 4 ports PoE. The 16 has 8 ports PoE, and the 24 features 16 ports PoE. That means that not all of your plugs have the ability to power a phone or access point. And with the prevalence of IP phones, with the prevalence of the faster access points, I just really don't think that that's terribly acceptable. If I've got to figure out, okay, I need to make sure I have this many ports, I'm going to end up buying a new switch. Now, Alta's already heard this. I've already shared with them several times on this. And me and the rest of their partners are excited to know we've actually seen in the flesh that the 48 port version is going to be the first version that comes with full PoE. All 48 ports, full PoE, and then they're going to start introducing from there PoE on the way down. So your 24, your 16, but their 48 port, brand new one, the PoE model with that is going to be a full PoE. The 16 and the 24, even the 48, I don't have here in the lab, but it is rack mount, and they're very industrial. They're metal casings and what have you, and they have an A logo on the corner, a little bit bigger, like a 1x1 inch logo that stands in place of the top lid logo. Now let's take a look at the Route 10. So the Route 10 is a firewall and a router. I'm going to cut right to the chase on this device. This thing is really pretty cool. You'll notice it's not much bigger than the switch, but it features a lot of real-time display and activity of your network, so we can see if you're overusing your bandwidth, if somebody's hogging it all, whatever. It shows all of that in an unobtrusive way because it's cloud managed. The other thing that it features is WireGuard, which is a remote access platform that I really like. It's a protocol I really like, as well as OpenVPN, which is another standard that we use here at Lighthouse. There's so many more features that it supports. There is some like IDS and IPS features, so some really good like security stuff. And this device features 2 SFP Plus ports. These SFP Plus ports allow you to have 10 gigabit connections, so you could connect them, let's say, to the 48 port switch, and you'd have a pretty hefty uplink into this device. The other thing is maybe you need 2 switches. You could sit this right in and almost act as if it's your core. I have not seen anything, especially in the price point. We're talking sub $300 for all of these devices that has this level of features. Now, overall performance of these devices, I'm very happy here as well. The throughput, they claim that it will do 10 gigabits throughput, even with every bit of security software we have. We don't have a way to quantify this because we don't have a 10 gigabit internet connection here at Lighthouse. We're blessed with a lot of bandwidth, but that's not one of them. And we also don't really have a comparable device because, to be honest, our closest device that we have here at the shop is $2,000 to $3,000. I will say that we have several of these out in the wild, and they're performing exactly the way they need to. We've not seen any customers come back with performance issues. Oh, another great thing is that you will see there's 4 ports on the front. Each one of these ports is 10, 100, 1000, 2500. That's right, these are 2.5 gigahertz or 2.5 gigabit network connections on all 4 of these. That makes plugging in your access point very useful in here, and you can because there's 2 PoE ports on it. And again, we're seeing that half PoE. I'm less annoyed by this because most firewalls don't offer any PoE, and if they do, it's 1 port, maybe 2, even if they have 8. So regardless there, I'm very happy with that. So I guess that's one of those where the half PoE doesn't annoy me, but that's because it's a firewall, not an actual switch. At this point in time, there's no rack mount option. That kind of bums me out. So if you're one of our mid-range clients that this could potentially work really well with, you're not really going to see it. Sorry. We're going to have to stick to the more enterprisey ones. But I come back, I'm just blown away. There's a lot going on in this little box. That said, come back to enterprise clients and some of our bigger security questions. The multi-WAN support is built in. They've been working on it a lot over the past few months, but it's still not great. It's still very clunky, and failover happens but doesn't always fall back properly. I mentioned that there's no rack mount option. I mean, that's kind of a bummer as well. And for as many features as they have packed, you know, you have IKE v2, you have WireGuard, you have IDS, you have IPS, you have threat prevention services, you have web content filtering, you have, gosh, I know I'm forgetting something. There's some things like DNS and DHCP, which are the basics of networking, that this device just doesn't do well. So if you have an existing server environment, this device wants to replace all of that, those basic services. And presently at Lighthouse, we tend to look at the situation, and often the servers will host DHCP rather than. There's also, although this was very recently fixed, DHCP on additional VLANs didn't work the greatest either. All that said, every place I've installed them has gone very well. Even the places where I had a little bit of issues, the technical support team figured out ways for me to work around it. So I'm really excited to work with them, work more with these. And definitely if you're within our sub 20 users network, you're probably going to see a lot of this Alta brand stuff. Finally, we have our AP6. Specifically what you're looking at here is the AP6 Pro, but I guarantee you, you're not going to be able to tell a difference between the 6 and the 6 Pro from looks alone. There's also a third one called the AP6 Pro Outdoor, which is rated for, I believe it's IP68. It's a weatherproof version of it. Now, before we get too far, I want to get rid of these because I actually want to take a look at this against some actual competitors. Because whereas these, for their price point, we really don't have any good solid competitors, I do have some for the access point. So let's get that set up. All right, we are back. And you'll notice that I've got some samples here of some devices that we use. The only device that I don't have represented that Lighthouse sells, and actually we don't even sell the Ubiquiti line anymore, is the Datto line. But we'll have the Ubiquiti sort of stand in the way. Now, why am I showing you the competitors? Well, because really, to be honest with you, I'm saving my favorite for last. The lower level AP6 is a 2x2 antenna, Wi-Fi 6 cloud managed access point. They support mesh technology, deep packet inspection, and also this great feature I love called AltaPass. Now, what AltaPass does is it's a way for you to use one single SSID, or net broadcasted network, with multiple shared keys. So that means that even though I might have Lighthouse Network, I can have a key for the employees and I can have a key for guests. When it looks at the pre-shared key, if that matches one of the entries, it can apply an independent policy as if it was a separate SID. Now you can get these on the Arista actually has these. It's a paid extra, no extras here. Or you can still use WPA2 Enterprise. But I love this idea that if you had, IoT boxes and you just like an Apple TV or, a TV that you wanted to stream internet or stream TV on, but it shouldn't really have access to your files. It's a great way to isolate those from your network. Another reason why you would do this is because this device, you would have the same network for your guests as your IoT, as your employee, for instance, networks, is that it only uses one SID. That means the number of radio channels you're using is the same. It's only one SID. This device is doing the magic. By reducing the number of networks, like here at Lighthouse, we have like 5. but we're in a very crowded area, which means sometimes we get a lot of signal noise because our devices are stepping on other devices. A device like this would allow us to cut down on the number of SIDs that we need, very likely to 2, keeping the radio spectrum, the air that we have, much cleaner. Now the AP6 that you see here takes the number of antennas from 2x2, takes those to 4x4, and the outdoor, as I mentioned, really just makes it so that this is a little bit more rugged. Now, I'm hoping you're kind of in the same boat as me. If I take a look at the device, which one is the prettiest? For me, it's going to be kind of a tie between the Alta and its pill-shaped design and the Meraki. Now the Meraki I do kind of like. It has a little bit more of a stealth design, and you can turn the LEDs off on it, but this is that LED just like we had on the top of the switch and the firewall. We also have that here. That's just hidden down a little bit more. A little bit more rigid mounting bracket, and I would say a lot easier to use mounting bracket here. But aesthetically, my eyes are drawn to both the Alta and the Meraki. And I think that really is going to show because this Meraki sitting here is more than double the price. The Ubiquiti, well, it looks and feels cheap. It is cheap, that's the good news, but it looks and feels cheap. The Arista, on the other hand, man, does this not just look like this is like German engineering kind of thing. This thing is built like a tank, and it looks like it's a tank as well. You take a look at it, you have your dual Ethernets on the bottom, your spaces for your mounting brackets to come through. All right, so how does our little AP6 Pro, by the way, I am using the Pro for our demo. How does our little AP6 Pro perform against these very common heavy hitters? Honestly, very well. In fact, the Alta, if it is not leading the pack or matching the leader of the pack or what have you, it's right there in number 2. So in terms of overall distance, the Arista did the best. It was a lot further that we were able to get off of the Arista's access point. But the Alta wasn't too bad. In fact, there were a couple of areas that the Alta did a little better in, where the Arista, but overall distance, we got more out of the Arista. In terms of transmission speeds, honestly, the Alta was probably the strongest of all of them. The Arista and the Meraki were very close. It's not substantial, but let me put it this way. This is $1,400. This is around $800. This is under $200. The difference that we saw in performance isn't going to really make a difference. I think this ends up working real well. The one thing that we haven't tested yet, and we don't have any major deployments of these out there in the world, we have some small ones, is how roaming works in a live environment. That could be a potential downside. The other thing is that the Ubiquitis and the Altas, you can tell their engineers are very similar because they both get pretty hot. Now I will say, one of the things I will appreciate though, is on the underside of this access point, this is a giant metal heat sink, and it does do a really good job of dissipating some of that heat. But it is a little worrying. I do kind of worry that that will affect longevity of the device. Still, cloud management of the APs, very simple, which is a plus. It's also a bit of a negative, I think, here as well. Really, reason being is that the troubleshooting that you can do, I'll say the Ubiquiti's cloud or Ubiquiti servers doing real well. Cisco, the Meraki was always a benchmark. And honestly, if you haven't seen some of the troubleshooting features of the Arista, your mind will be blown as to what you can do. This can actually proactively record when it sees events. There's some AI integration that says, oh, that Teams chat got really slow, and it'll start doing packet records for you. There's incredible. Overall, though, I think you can already tell I'm excited to have these items added to our fleet. The reality is that they are heavy hitters in a price range that doesn't make sense all the time for me. So considering everything that I showed you today from Alta is sub $300, and their switches are not that much more, I think you're gonna have a great competitor, especially to the Datto line that we are phasing out. Because the Datto line, most people don't know this, but Lighthouse pays a management fee for that. And so these devices provide us with all of that, way more features. They're way more attentive to their customers. I'm just really excited about it. And don't be surprised if you see one of these show up on one of your quotes, especially these access points. Very impressed with them. As I said, you got a $1,400 Arista, which does require a cloud subscription to manage them, just like the Meraki does. Now the Ubiquiti doesn't, but the Alta is much more cloud focused. The Ubiquiti requires a locally managed. You have to have a separate server. For the customers where it makes sense, we think you're going to love the Alta Labs equipment and are excited to get it into your hands. With that, we'll catch you later.